What's up, YouTube? Today I want to share an interesting conversation that me and my dad had the other day. I was sharing a book I was reading called The Four Agreements, and one of those agreements was talking about how to be impeccable with your words. So me and him were discussing some things and talking about how our mindset and our words we were using were affecting our ability to fix the problem or understand the problem and how to go about it. Me and my dad came to the realization of how powerful the word why is. That's the main subject of this video, is the power of the word why. Have you ever used the word what if? I personally always hate that word, and that's one of those words that I always try to veer away from, and just it's something that I'm used to not saying, so I never thought about cutting out the word why. But back to what if, we all know we could what if all day. What if my dog just died? What if this laptop broke? What if this tripod fell over? What if my power went out? What if this snowstorm coming in messes everything up? What if I have a great day? What if I see somebody I love? What if I make $1 million today? Get the greatest. We can what if all day long, both good or bad. So I always try to stay away from that word because it'll drive you insane. I've talked about how I'm naturally a positive, optimistic person. So I try to stick away from what if, just because what if we could do it all day and you would drive yourself crazy, you will go in a loop, you're not going to get an answer to half of those. So that word I was used to not saying and cutting out my vocabulary because it's an open-ended question. My pops made me realize that the word why is damn near equivalent. I mentioned to him that I gain a lot of knowledge in my day-to-day life because I just soak up game from everybody I can. My biggest tip to anybody is always be a student of the game, whether that's your career, whether that's your hobby, whether that's a new passion you're trying to bring up, whatever you want to do. If it's already existed, there's somebody out there you can learn game from. Instead of hating, try to learn game from them. Learn from their mistakes, learn from their wisdom, ask them questions, and just pay attention. So I was telling my dad how often in life I just pay attention to everything. It was a big way of how I was raised, is pay attention to your surroundings. So I pay attention and I soak up game from everything around me and everybody around me. And I'm a big believer in there's always more to learn, there's always more to do. So I try to stay very humble throughout my life, and just in conversations, even in conversations that I'm strong about, that I'm strong in my beliefs, I try to be open-minded, and we all know that can be harder sometimes. Again, I was telling him how I ask questions to God. I ask questions in the universe. Why did that just happen that made me fall on my face? Or why did this, I communicated this with something with the person, and then we both left the house at the same time, and then I saw them. How crazy is that? Prime example of something we've all been in, where you were rushing to leave the house and you're frustrated and you end up leaving 5-10 minutes later, but then you find out there was a wreck or there was a closing, anything like that. I ask questions. I'm a realist, and I pray every day. So I try to take answers from what's going on around me and just pay attention. So as I was trying to relay that to my dad, we were kind of missing each other in the beginning, and I was trying to tell him that that I ask questions, that I do that, and he was telling me, "Oh, don't do that, son. Be careful. don't do that, son. Be careful of what questions you ask, because some questions that drive you crazy, you might not get the answer to them." And I was trying to relay that, what's the lesson in whatever happened? Don't you think we should look for the lesson when things happen to us? And we agreed on that, but his point was like, don't ask questions you can't get the answers to, right? So like, if we all want to know what happens after we die, and I have strong faith. I believe that's a whole nother conversation. I'm not going to dive into that, but we all want to know what happens after we die. The truth is, we won't get the answer until we die. We could go off a Bible, we go off belief, but if you're still here, you can't actually relate to me what happens after I die. So there's other questions, rest in peace to anybody who's passed away from suicides. But if somebody commits suicide, everybody around them's wondering, why did you do that? Why did you do that? If somebody breaks your heart and they completely cut you off and ghost you and they don't care about you and never hear from again, you're going to spend months asking, why did this happen? Why is that happening? Me with my injury, when I was in the thick, I'm still in it. But when it first started and the injuries started piling up, I'm like, why is it more injuries on top of injuries? What is going on? Why is this happening? And then, you see my emotion right now. You get worked up and so fixated on why is this happening to me? And then when the victimist mindset comes in and you're blaming everything else or everybody else. Why is a very dangerous question, is what me and Pops got to the bottom of, because why is kind of like an open-ended question and it keeps going. Every time I ask the question why, there might be another why onto that. So I could say, why did I slip and fall? Because there was ice outside. Well, why is there ice outside? Because it was snowing. Well, why is it snowing? Because of participation. You see how it builds? We can go all day long with the why. And I had never thought about this. And the biggest point I want to say about all of this is every single person asks the question why multiple times a day, if not multiple times a week. We even realize through multiple languages, people ask why, because we all are trying to find a purpose. And my dad likes to tell me, your purpose is to just be you, son. Live your life. We're all asking that big why, which is what's next? What's my purpose? Why am I here? We're always asking, no matter the language, there's always that curiosity behind something of why. The key to me and my dad's discussion is, as we kept going on this, I said, Pops, do you think acceptance is the true key to happiness? Obviously, we don't really know. I can't answer that for you. Happiness is going to vary for everybody. But the amount of victimist mentalities in the world, again, everybody's guilty of it. The amount of worry and stress and living in the past or living in the future. If you're living in the past, again, you're asking questions. You're worried about the why. You're worried about something that you might not get the answers to. And this is where it kind of became a double-edged sword in our discussion, because you have to learn from your mistakes, which is in the past. So you have to be careful on when you use the word why. We came to the conclusion that I want to completely cut out the word why from my vocabulary, and I encourage you to do the same, because is acceptance the key to happiness? Accepting, if I bust my ass and roll out and break an ankle, well, it was supposed to happen. If I get in a crash, well, it was supposed to happen. Well, if I, again, like, be careful with your word. I'm trying to be careful with my word. I'm just trying to give you guys examples. It goes back to the idea of everything happens for a reason. When you're going through something that sounds so corny, that's so aggravating, it's frustrating, you don't want to hear that. You for some reason, all humans are bred to want to know the answers to things. And maybe that's consciousness, and that's a blessing to have. But again, like I said, sometimes when you use the word why, you might not get the answer to that question. You might drive yourself crazy for a long time before you get the answer to that question. But then guess what? You're going to ask why again. Why did it take me so long? Or why didn't I see this before? So I encourage you to try to cut out why in your vocabulary and try to accept whatever is happening in your day. I'm practicing this as well. We just talked about this a few days ago, so this is completely new to me, but I wanted to get on and share this because I think it's very, very powerful. We are all on a clock, and we don't know when that clock is going to tick out, when it's going to stop. We don't know what's after this life. We can't answer a lot of questions in our universe or on this planet. What they say, space is more explored than the ocean. It might be vice versa, don't quote me. But the point is, there's so many questions out there in the universe that we could use the word why to. And in one lifetime, in 100 years, 60 years, you're not gonna get an answer to all those whys. Now, again, this is where it's a double-edged sword, because my point of view was, be curious, learn from your mistakes, pay attention to what goes on around you. But I think that's where my dad's point comes in, which is stop it right there with acceptance. Whatever you see in the universe, whatever happens in your life, don't start and go, why? Instead, just say, okay, evidently that was supposed to happen. Again, I know this is anything I say on here, I'm usually speaking from a place of relativity. So I understand this is way easier said than done. But what they say, practice makes perfect. And repetitions is really where you build skill. I'm saying try to practice going forward. I'm practicing going forward, not using the word why. Questions are weird, but if you can reframe your question to a yes or no answer rather than why, because why just seems limitless. If anything, stop and pay attention today. How many times did you use the word why? And again, I'm not saying don't be curious. That's the beauty of consciousness. But accept whatever obvious answer seems to be right in front of your face. This was another big key we realized when I was talking with my dad. When we ask the word why, it's often right there in front of your face, right? So why did I trip? Because I wasn't paying attention. So that's what I mean. Accept your answer, but try to eliminate why, because you're going to keep going. You can keep going. As you adapt to removing why from your vocabulary, as you start to practice it more and more, accept the answer you get that's right in front of you, that's more realistic, that's most obvious. The breakthrough here that I think everybody needs to hear is maybe just accepting is the key to happiness. Because whether you believe in reincarnation, whether you believe in fate and destiny, or you believe that you have control over your destiny, either way, we're all here for a reason. We won that battle out the womb. We're all here for a reason. The purpose is going to vary. Success is going to vary on your beliefs and your ideas, but accept whatever happens to you. Because when you take your emotions out of it, when you take your beliefs out of it in our hard-headed way of thinking, because we all are stuck in our own ways in one way or another, when you take that out of there, things that happen end up showing themselves. Like the why ends up playing out. When you take out all of those things I just said, in time, answers come to you. Time and experience is the best teacher. We are all bred to want to know why for some reason. And this was the most eye-opening thing with this conversation with my dad was we are all asking why, no matter the language, 1,000,000 times in a day or a week. Usually the answer is right in front of you or is gonna show itself in due time. Why is a never-ending question. You're gonna ask it forever. Maybe the key to happiness, to life, to loving yourself and embracing yourself and not hating yourself, not hating others. Just the key to fulfillment is acceptance. And I heard Tony Robbins say progression, because that's why materialistic things don't last you very long. They don't heal your depression. They don't, you get a fixation like a dope fiend for a day. That high, extreme dopamine is really only going to last a few hours. You know, in a matter of a year, you might completely forget about that object that you bought to try to lift you up. So it's happening for a reason. Your plan is playing out for a reason. We've literally, if you just pay attention to the universe, turn off the computers, turn off the noise, just sit in silence a little bit, you're going to get some answers. And then not only, if you just pay attention in the moment, my dad always told me, if you pay attention, you can tell when something's about to happen. If you just pay attention, you can read the room, you can read the energy around you, and your answer will come eventually. So that's where it comes with faith and acceptance of just accepting, okay, I'm going to figure out why this happened. Oh, see what I did there? I still used the word why. Accepting, I'm going to figure this out. This happened for a reason. It's going to show itself. We're all looking for fulfillment in our spirit, something that makes us feel good all the time, and something that's healthy, most importantly. And I think we only find that fulfillment hit. Tony Robbins' point was when we're steady progressing and pushing ourselves, because that's what life is, right? Living, experiencing, trying, trial and error, failure, getting back up, doing it again. I can definitely say through my 5 years of injury, I have so much more appreciation for my body and my abilities that I'm able to do. And I have so much more appreciation for flexibility and strength, and just realizing that this is the true temple, this is the true mechanism to take me through my life. I say that to say that trials and tribulations, they make us. Everything is temporary. Everything is temporary. So I'm going to strive so hard to work towards this goal. Well, then what's after that goal, right? So I think steady pushing ourselves, steady trying new things. David Goggins' book, never finished. Him as a person, from what I see online, is a great example of how he just keeps pushing himself to new levels. Look up to your hero. Look at anybody that really inspires you, and I guarantee they've never stayed in the same place for very long. Even if they have the same career, I guarantee they've still sprawled out and tried new things to push themselves. Maybe the key to happiness is acceptance of whatever goal, whatever happens to you along the road of trying new things over and over and over again. Like, those two go together, I believe. So you keep trying new things, so you keep getting new fulfillments, and you keep building that confidence and that strength and that courage. Then you end up proud of yourself while accepting whatever happens along that journey, instead of asking the word why and being a victim, because it's going to show itself in due time. I hope I got my message across as clearly. I feel like I did. It came out way better and it flowed naturally, as if I was still having this conversation with my dad. So I hope this resonated with you. I hope you realize how powerful our word really is. And it's hard, but anything with practice can reap new results. Don't speak bad on yourself, even when you're praying. That's where I struggle sometimes, because I try to pray for my hardships. I pray for the bad and the good, but again, acceptance. So, be impeccable with your word. Be careful with your word on how you're wording things, even if you're struggling. A good example would be, this is new to me. I'm learning this. Sometimes I mess up, but I still often learn. I'm going to do better. Be impeccable with your word. Realize how powerful your word is. Pay attention to how you're speaking on yourself, how you're speaking on your life, your love, your health, your abilities. Mindset is everything. Accept what happens to you on the way. Don't be a victim. Own accountability. Look for the lesson. One way or another, it will mold you. I truly believe, as corny as it may sound, as much as we've heard it, everything happens for a reason. So again, whatever happens to you today, whether big or large, reflect and realize, what was the lesson? What was it trying to teach you? What did it result in? Be faithful. Let go of the word why. Let go of what if. They are never-ending questions. Accept what happens in your life. Learn from it. Continue to push yourself. Continue to try new things as you gain that fulfillment. I hope this helped you. I hope this resonated deep with you. I hope you feel the power and the energy from this conversation, because I was just like, when we were done talking about it. I believe you can change your thoughts when you practice on your word as well, and your thoughts influence everything else. Be impeccable with your word. Be your biggest hype man. Do your best when you can. Give yourself grace. Do what you need to do to take care of yourself and take care of your health. And just be fully accountable. That can set you free. You got this. I'm rooting for you. It's still a new year, new beginnings. Spring is coming. Everything's gonna sprout. So can you. Let's do it.